out in front of the White House said, listen, this whole thing about the blockade is fine, but Iran blackmailing America, never.
What's the end game? Is it to force Iran back to the negotiating table? Is it to open up the strait so the gas prices ultimately come down?
Maybe everything. I mean, both of those things, certainly, and more. We can't let a country blackmail or extort the world, because that's what they're doing. They're really blackmailing the world. We're not going to let that happen.
Yeah, we're not going to let that happen. Okay, so let's just, as a quick reminder to our studio audience here, the only reason the strait is blocked or closed right now, prior to Trump's blocking it from the outside, is because we started a war of choice against Iran. In 47 years, they had never done this, never would have. So just let me ask your take right off the bat that a couple of things from that soundbite I want to talk about. Well, let's look at the last part first, where Trump just declares, no, we're not going to let this happen. It's not going to be blackmail.
Well, it's not just a war of choice. It's an illegal war of aggression. I think everybody needs to understand that there's no legitimacy at all in anything the United States is doing. Nothing. So we had that it's so important to point this out, because everything that follows, including every statement made by the President of the United States, must be seen in the light of he is a war criminal. He is a man leading a nation in actions that have zero legitimacy constitutionally and zero legitimacy under international law. And I also want to remind people that a blockade is an act of war. He's treating this as if he has some sort of, legal duty and responsibility to, carry out this, that he's somehow legitimate in pursuing this. It's an act of war, literally an act of war. And again, because it's tied to nothing from a legal foundation, it's an illegal act of war. Blackmail. What does Iran hold over you, Mr. President? What is the blackmail? It seems to me what he really meant to say is that Iran has strategic leverage because Iran has outplayed this president in every way, shape, and form. I want to remind again your audience that we hear the president and Pete Hegseth speak of destruction. There's been a lot of physical destruction, but there's been almost zero destruction of meaningful strategic capabilities of Iran. Iran always went into this conflict knowing that its ballistic missile and drone capabilities would serve as the foundation of their military response. So for Pete Hegseth, the president, to redefine this war as, based upon Iran's naval prowess, as if the Iranian Navy ever, positioned or postured itself to be a competitor of the United States Navy, or as an air power. No, Iran never said that it was either of those. What Iran said, and I was told by the Iranian president in person, together with the foreign minister last September, that Iran's strategic deterrence comes from their conventional ballistic missile capabilities. That this is, how they postured themselves, and this is how they would hopefully deter somebody from attacking them. But if somebody attacked, to punish the attackers. Deterrence doesn't work unless people know and understand that there will be a consequence for your actions. There are many people who believe that the Iranian missile and drone capabilities were overhyped, that Iran lacked the political will to follow through. Not anymore. Now we know that Iran has the ability, the wherewithal to employ these weapons, employ them effectively. They hammered the United States military installations in the region. They punished the state of Israel, and they sent a clear signal to the Gulf Arab states that the totality of their infrastructure is at risk should they continue to support the United States in this illegal war of aggression.
All right. That's depressing enough. It's 218. The markets are up. Hopefully the markets are correct in their assessment of the world, but markets can be fooled. And I don't really know what to say, because I think information is somewhat, I don't want to say unreliable, because some of it's quite reliable. It's just you don't know where to get the full picture. But I think I have to go back to what I've been saying now for a few years. This is all of it, other than the Zionist part of it, the Israel part. You know, it's quite possible that Miriam Adelson, who's probably not a good Nick, her husband probably was not a good Nick. But we don't know. But, you know, certainly Las Vegas gambling doesn't bring up images of highly moral actors. And it is possible that her money and the Zionists around Trump, and the fact that he was Akshay in Butler, Pennsylvania, and then Charlie Kirk was Akshay effectively wherever it was. It might really allow one to presume that Trump just doesn't have an option, and this is all about the right-wing Israeli agenda. Not all of Israel, but that's all possible. I think, and very likely, I suppose, but I think really what's going on, which has been evident for several years, if not longer, and we've talked about it before, is the struggle of the Western banking system against the change that's coming. And I think this is all about collateral. I think it's also about pricing oil in dollars instead of yuan. And I think we lost. I think that I've said it. I think this is going to be a before and after moment. And I think it's quite possible that Donald Trump has destroyed his presidency, will lose the House and the Senate, all because he decided to go along with Benjamin Netanyahu. I think Trump could have distinguished himself amongst statesmen if he had just told Netanyahu to do his own dry cleaning. But anyway, let's leave that to whatever the fates decide, and whoever's in charge of it. Just we'll continue to pray for peace. Railtown, we're moving upward. We're up to 19,171,936 shares, which is just incredible. You guys, I don't think all of you realize what kind of change is going to come to your account fairly quickly. I'm feeling very slow today. I don't know if it's because I didn't sleep well, I got up early, but it might be pollen. It might be pollen. I'm just sluggish. So apologize if that's coming across. Uh, let's see where I want to go with everything. I do want to mention that there's an enormous risk, and I don't think it's a risk. I think it's a certainty that oil prices are going higher. I don't know what the buffer is in the system because things have changed. The UAE built a pipeline which does open on is that the Indian Ocean right there? The Arabian Sea, maybe, bypassing the Strait of Hormuz. The Saudis have built a pipeline that goes to the Red Sea. However, I don't know how long it takes to turn those on. I don't know once the Yemenis get involved and perhaps Iran closes the Suez Canal's at the other end of it, but effectively closes the Suez Canal pathway. I think oil prices are headed monstrously higher. There's a lot of extra oil, and there has been for quite a while in container ships on the sea, but I think that's going to be absorbed. This myth that the United States is self-sufficient in oil, get over it. It's not true. It's not true. We consume something like 20 million. Look, these are old numbers and it's approximate. We consume something like 20 million barrels of oil a day. And supposedly that's what we produce. But that's oil equivalent. That's oil equivalent. I'd say almost half, 45% of what we produce every day is natural gas. We do not burn natural gas in our automobiles and our trucks. Some, but mostly we don't. So I don't see it. And that's probably why we went into Venezuela, because the Venezuelan crude, our refineries in Texas are set up for Venezuelan crude. I suppose if we ever got desperate, we just go into Pemex and maybe up into Alberta. I don't know. But do not buy the myth that we are self-sufficient in oil. We might be self-sufficient, if you want to call it that, when you combine everything. But we consume, I'm giving rough numbers. I don't have time to look it up. We consume 20 million barrels of oil a day. We only produce, I'd have to look it up, 12, 11 million barrels, maybe 10 million barrels. And the Permian has peaked. So oil's going much, much higher. Prices of everything are going much higher. If I can give any of you one practical thing to do today, tomorrow, go buy gasoline, drive around with full tanks. Don't drive around with empty tanks. Every time your tank goes to 3/4, go fill it up. The system can be drained in, if everybody does that at the same time, the system can be drained of gasoline in 2 weeks. And then it'll take months, if not a year, to top up the system. We have a just-in-time delivery system for gasoline. And it's in the pipes, it's in the trucks, it's in the storage tanks at the gasoline stations. Just drive around with a full tank. It's going to get expensive. I imagine a lot of things that you buy and throw away are going to get expensive. It's not a pretty picture. Look, I think Trump is a I don't know, a bull in a china shop. And when he sees that things are going to change, it's like, let's get it over with. You know, this was all coming. It's just that this idiotic Netanyahu-led Miriam Adelson, the bitch, self-centered destruction of the world economy for 5 million disgruntled people. For what reason? Why are they disgruntled? Anyway, I shouldn't call her that. Lent has just ended. I'm sure she's a wonderful person. $35 billion, and this is what she does with it. But it was coming anyway. This was all coming anyway. It's just a question we have to adapt on the fly now. Hopefully Trump's blockade will be measured. And, you know, if I were Iran, I'd say, you know what? We already signed agreements. We've already told you we're not interested in nuclear weapons. We do want nuclear power, but you know what? We'll give that up too. We'll give it all up. We're going to put it in a mountain, and you can have people oversee it. We'll give it to you when Israel gives up their nuclear weapons, because we can't go back to a time where we're vulnerable to the white supremacy, the colonial supremacy, the theocracy, the supremacy of Zionists willing to destroy anybody that isn't one of them. That's what I would do. Anyway, one of the problems with higher oil prices and non-existent excess natural gas, so natural gas prices go higher. This AI revolution is based on almost unlimited data and data storage and data processing. All of that's based on energy. So it's something to be on alert for. The flip side of that, and you know, any projections, you can't know how everything settles out. The flip side of that is one of the consequences of higher gasoline prices is more and more people will work from home. They'll telecommute, and more business will be done. More and more jobs will be done by AI agents. So there'll be less demand for commuting. And by definition, higher oil prices destroy demand for oil. So anyway, AI might also be the savior in a world when driving 2 hours each way becomes prohibitive. And my brain isn't working. It really isn't. All right, let's look at some prices. This contango ore, which I showed you just 2 weeks ago at $16, it's up almost 50 cents today to $23.80. Railtown's up 0.003 at 29 cents. That HLP, which I think Ham's mentioned a few times, I don't know if he knows anything. That's up a penny. It's at 90 cents. Finger Motion is under 90 cents. Finger Motion is down 0.026 at 82.51, I think Motion is still giving you an opportunity to buy 2.5 shares of Railtown for 1 share of Finger. Soon it'll be 1 for 1, and then Railtown will leave Finger behind. Microsoft, for some reason I have here, is up 11 at 381. Let's look at Railtown. 28.5 to 30 cents. Because of course it is. 32,000 shares. They have a huge amount for sale at 30 cents, 119,537. And I don't know. That might be real. But if you're out there, all you all, and you want to buy stock, put it in at 30 cents. Test it. They won't fill you there. They'll fill you down at 29. The bid is 28.57. The volume today that I show is 32,700. And the last trade, 3,500 shares at 29 cents. All right, I want to read an email I received. I'm not going to say from whom, and I intend to respond to this gentleman, but I saw it this morning. And I started to respond, and then I said, I can't answer this. He's trying to get me to put things in writing that I can't put in writing. And I always have this hesitation that I wonder if someone's a short, and then of course they're not a short, so that pisses everyone off. But the thing is, all of you and I, we have to be on constant alert. This heaviness, this collusion to steal your money, it's everywhere. So you can't trust anybody. Anyway, this gentleman sent me an email. I'll read it to you. I'm not going to give his name. I think it's very nice, and I recognize his name, so I don't think he's a short. But he said, "Hi, William. This came to me, I guess, 2 days ago. I just saw it this morning. I'm strongly considering an investment in the company." And I mean, that's the headline of it's the tag of the email. And have a couple of quick questions, if you don't mind. First, is your bullishness on the stock based on growth, a takeover, pending news, a short squeeze, or any combination of the above? Also, are you as bullish as you've been from the beginning, or has your resolve strengthened or weakened? I was an avid listener until I decided to pause on Wall Street while I diverted funds toward expenses, and I trust you implicitly to provide honest insight. Anyway, I hope you were well. Thank you very much. All right, let me make a couple of comments. The first question is asking if I know insider information, and I don't have inside information. I have no awareness of a takeover. I don't really know, other than what I've shared with you, the logical implications of press releases and presentations and interviews that are out there, but I don't have any awareness of pending news. A short squeeze, that's trickier. Yeah, Railtown could have a short squeeze, but that's not, as you guys know, I have never emphasized that. In fact, I see it more as a risk because it's going to get a lot of you thinking about being day traders again. and I don't want you to do that. But it is possible Railtown could have a short squeeze, and I'll have to address that. And then this question, am I as bullish as I have been from the beginning, or has your resolve strengthened or weakened? I'm definitely as bullish as I have been from the beginning. I've lost, for me, a relationship I valued very highly because the gentleman, I think, I mean, I don't know. Fact is, he doesn't speak to me any longer and hasn't explained it. But my last vivid point of polite juxtaposition of views with him was the stock was trading around 42 cents, maybe 44 cents. And it was, when are you going to give up on Railtown? Twice. I think in the same conversation, you're not listening to me. You're not hearing me. When are you going to give up on Railtown? And I was silent, and I said, well, I can't give up on it. I'm paraphrasing. I didn't write it down. I can't give up on it because the fundamental story hasn't changed. We're waiting. There's no question about that. But the wait makes sense to me. I've called it a quiet period. I think that's accurate, but maybe it's not technically the correct wording. But I'd have to say that you call it resolve, has actually gotten stronger. I believe Railtown has gotten better. The negative is a concern of mine, which is, did Railtown miss its opportunity to be the first to trumpet and define its space? I think Langchain with Sequoia and the rest of the Wall Street private equity has leapt to the front of everyone's imagination. But just because everyone says they're the what, I think even in one press release, the gold standard. The gold standard of what? The whole AI industry, or the whole software/AI industry, is under such a massive and ongoing transformation. No one even really knows what they're talking about, including the smartest of the smart. They're changing definitions. They're changing product mixes on the fly. Everybody. So my negative is a constant nagging. Has Railtown somehow missed the boat by not being out there competing with the advertising / propaganda / news of Langchain and others? It's always on my mind that somehow this technological world, the changes to it can outpace anything that Railtown originally had, and they can throw money at it and just leave Railtown in the dust. I asked Corey about that in December, and I bring it up almost all the time when I'm talking to anybody, because that is the one nagging thing I think about. However, I got to tell you, my answer to it, I've never found anything that leads me to change my view that Railtown was the first. Railtown is the best in class. Railtown is almost the only in class when you look at it from end to end. And I think Railtown's going to blow all of these competitors away. But that's not, that belief that I have, and there's others that I think share it, that's not out there in the zeitgeist. It's not common. It's not a common viewpoint. That's why Railtown's cheap. And so you can't have it both ways. You can't have, when you're investing, you want everyone to comfort you and say Railtown is bigger, better, badder, and the bestest of the restest. Because then the stock's trading at, if it's trading for what I think Lang Chain is going to be valued for, Railtown's probably should already be $10 to $15 a share. Well, if that happens, how do you make any money? How do you make any money? That's why sometimes it's you study something, you study the trend, you study the overall market, and you have to be early. That's just how it is. But my answer to that question is I believe Railtown is even better than when I first followed it. And I've got to be clear, the idea was brought to me. I do not tell you who brought it to me simply because I don't think he wants me to say so. But I'm not trying to self-aggrandize, but I listen to all ideas. I always, even if I dismiss them at first, I listen again. That's the only way you ever stumble across anything. But my as I've explained many times, it's been a year when I really made this basically the only thing I'm focusing on, not because I wanted to be that way. It's because I learned with GTII when I came out and said, there's something going on in the C-suite, they've asked me to be CEO. I don't know what. Have you considered selling it? Maybe you should look into taking a tax loss in it and put it somewhere else. And that kind of discussion with my contemporaries, they would pick up on it right away and think, yeah, it's a good time to get out. But most people didn't pick up on what I was saying. So one of the reasons from June 5th last year, I've just focused on Railtown. I want people to be clear on where I stand. I think Railtown is the best way for people who have been abused, taken advantage of, stolen from. They're even ridiculed for the corruption that you can't fight. Everybody blames it on you or me. Railtown's the best way to fight back, to make all of your money back, make a profit, and I think stay in it. Obviously, you can't stay in anything blindly. You got to pay attention. But I think Railtown is a one decision stock. I would give it 50-50. It's going to be a unicorn. But even as a unicorn, you don't sell a unicorn. At least not during its beefing up phase. Do unicorns beef up? Or do they grass up? Or they eat multicolored flowers? Let's go to the first part of this question. Is it based on growth? Of course it is. This is a speculative stock that I think is going to shortly begin to show the predictability, in my judgment, of massive annual recurring revenues and ongoing growth, stickiness, high margins. I don't think you can get much higher than 100% margin. Scalability, duration, possibly the proof of concept will show that Railtown is the answer for the data centers on Earth and in space and the distributed AI, that model that Apple has. So yeah, of course it's on growth, but I think phenomenal growth that no one had. I may go through it right now. I'm so bored trying to come up with new things to show you guys. But even if you ask the questions, the information isn't out there. That's our opportunity. Because once you get confirmation out there, everybody knows about it, and the stock's $15 to $25. So you got to pick your poison. You want to buy the stock at $20 and know that everybody knows what you know? Or do you want to buy it now when you feel you know something that most people either don't know, or if they do know it, they can't buy it? So you have a distinct advantage. So you're buying it for 30 cents instead of $30. It's the, it's the moment of taking a deep breath and plunging. Am I bullish on a takeover? I am not aware of any takeover now, but from the start of this, I believe Microsoft is the most logical buyer of Railtown. For a while there, and maybe it still could happen, I was convinced that TELUS could be a buyer of Railtown. But I think TELUS gets priced out of the deal pretty quickly. TELUS is a $30 billion company. And I now think Railtown, although we don't have enough supporting evidence yet, so don't assume these numbers are correct. They're a little bit wild-ass guess-ish. But I think Railtown could be purchased for more than TELUS is worth. So I think TELUS gets priced out at maybe 10 or 15 billion. And that's what I think Railtown's going to be bought out for at its lowest, would be in the 10 to 15 billion dollar range. I didn't used to think that. I thought there was a chance they would get sold earlier on in the proof of concept and proof of revenue growth. But that's a judgment call. It's not a promise. It's more of a prediction. Microsoft is embedded, or the other way around, Railtown is embedded, but all of Railtown's products are designed for and work right now in 3 of Microsoft's channels. And Microsoft is a logical buyer. NVIDIA is a logical buyer. Elon Musk's data centers in space. Apple to keep up. Google just to keep anybody from competing with the Google ADK. Or Railtown stands alone. And I've shown that I believe that Railtown is going to be able to, I think it's reasonable to suggest that Railtown in short order could project to do $250 million in annual recurring revenue in 2028 at 100% margin or close to it. I mean, if you divide that out, I can't do it, but at 240 you can. That's about 20 million a month in free cash flow. You can afford to stay alive as a unicorn and grow and keep up. Pending news. Well, everybody wants news to trigger things. In the micro cap market, anything under $5, under 500, I don't know, $300 million, some number, they all get slaughtered by the indifference of Adina Friedman, the loser Adina Friedman, and the boozer probably, I don't know, but he's a clown, the guy that runs the over-the-counter markets, Cheshire Charlie. They don't care. And so news, no, I don't think news is going to trigger anything with this stock. I don't care what the news is, they'll sell it down. However, what I think is coming is that Railtown has been under what I call a quiet period. I've been corrected that quiet periods just refer to earnings, whatever, I don't know what to call it, a news blackout, a suppression of news, a prolonged squawk, I don't know, or prolonged lack of a squawk. The quiet period has gone on for essentially a year, over a year, from February 8th, when they announced they were buying AIP Partners. And then that morphed into a TELUS deal, a TELUS arrangement. And if I had to guess, news, just any news, is not necessarily going to do F-all. But the right kind of news, not for what's in it necessarily, because the colluding clack of counterfeiting criminals will continue to pour non-located, non-deliverable shares on the market so they can meet their dastardly goal of just one more penny down. It just never stops. And there's no solution to that unless policy change. And I think they should I think if Trump could get away from putting Israel first, I think he should nationalize the over-the-counter market and probably nationalize the Dina Friedman's market too. Any nationalize the market for any stock under $10 in a range of $5 to $10. Because if you define it exactly, they'll come up with a manipulation around it. But anyway, it's not specific news. And I don't know what the specific news would be. Anyway, what you want is an end of the quiet period. And I know that's the wrong word. Please Google it. Tell me I'm using the wrong word. Since February 8th's announcement last year that they were buying AIP, and then at some indeterminate time, they entered into some arrangement with TELUS, which has been spoken about, but it hasn't really been disclosed. And maybe there's other things going on, but insiders, those close to the company, whales, people that know the story and have signed maybe NDAs or non-competes, bankers, certainly anybody that was associated with Canaccord Genuity, all of the AIP companies, probably OMERS, none of them are allowed to buy, none is allowed to buy stock because they can be deemed to have access to material, non-public information that gives them a chance to cheat you. Of course, on the short side, the regulators don't give a twit if they cheat you. But you know what? It puts you in the position, you know the story. And yes, there's some, you know, if A, B, D, E, and G must mean A, B, C, D, E, F, G, therefore, and there's a little bit of filling in the blanks. But, I mean, it's just sitting there for you to put it together. And you get to act. You get to buy. While a bunch of insiders, you know, the guys that, the two BlackBerry guys and maybe some assorted, they put 3.4 million in the company, and they have some warrants, which maybe they exercise. Well, I guess the stock's back down, so maybe they haven't. But that's how they could buy. Oddly, private placements, you can know material non-public information in a private placement. Why? Because you're an accredited investor. Why? Because in order to invest in that deal, you have to show you're accredited. There's a sign up, and you're not going to buy any shares in the public market. So those guys bought all they could in the private market, but they're not out buying in the public market. Do you think if they put 3.4 million in, that's all they want to buy? They're not allowed to. So it's not so much a specific news story. It's a lifting of the wet blanket that's covering over the company on being able to talk about what the hell they're doing. Now, some of it could be strategic. I mean, why would you, let's say, I'm making it up. Can I make something up? I'm just making it up. What if NVIDIA is moving ahead with its stack, which may or may not include Railtown, and AMD wants to come out with a competing chip /stack, and AMD catches wind of how great the interface that Railtown is that it provides. So AMD, let's say AMD's called the company and said, we want to, I mean, let's ignore buying the company. We want to enter into an agreement where we can use your technology for the next, I don't know, 10 years in our stack. But they have to duke it out. I would imagine that Corey wouldn't give up exclusivity. He'd say, no, we're not going to be exclusive. And they're going to say, well, if it's not exclusive, then we're going to only pay you this. And Corey will say, well, pound sand. So it goes back and forth. It's a negotiation. But let me ask you, because you need to know and you want your stock price up, do you think Corey should announce those negotiations? Because as soon as he does, the Sequoia guys and girls are going to bring in Langchain and say, well, we're the gold standard, even if they don't have it. They're going to pretend to have it. Fake it till you make it. Oh, we can do that and then go hire 200 engineers out of grad school or whatever school engineers matriculate and pretend they have it. Get the contract and then fill in the know-how. So no, it's also an aspect of the company can't talk about shite because they're not going to put their future at risk just to make shareholders not upset. Oh, we're waiting 6 months and we can't. We got to grow up. Each of us have to grow up. So the way I see an investment in Railtown, there are some gaps in our understanding, but that's why the price is cheap. The stock is under constant attack from the criminals because it's under $5 and no one cares. There is a news blackout, so the constant selling of non-existent shares suppresses the price. But on the other hand, there's no meaningful news flow, research, trading desks, campaign by a brokerage firm to build a position. Institutions aren't buying it. So you've got no buying from people who have wherewithal and know the story. The BlackBerry guys, they know the story. They're not out in the public market. Of course, you can take it negative and say, well, if it's so great, they'd be in the public market, but they're not going to break the law. But you can, that's what makes a market. You can take the negative side or the positive side. The selling just continues and continues because the seller's goal is a penny or half a penny that day or that hour. It has nothing to do with the fundamentals, has nothing to do with the upside because they can back their computers off. And if they lose money for a month, even if it's a lot of money, they can do a lot of trading with their computers from higher levels, or they just move on to another stock. But in the meantime, they're going to hit it hard because they need to go where the activity is. They need to go where retail is buying because otherwise it's bone against bone. It's short selling computer versus short selling computer. And they can't make a trade. They need the cartilage of retail so there can be movement in the market so they can steal. It's a shitty, sucky, disgusting situation. but it's the market we have. Railtown, you can flip the story on its rear end and you can make money because their program selling and their counterfeiting is predicated on very short-term goals. And you can flip the whole story on its butt. I think Railtown could be a takeover target. My favorite buyer is Microsoft. Railtown is embedded in GitHub. It's embedded in all their products. I forget how many developers, DevOps, they call them, Microsoft services. But I believe in the SDK world, the software development kit world, there were something like 25 million to 30 million developers around the world of various sizes. And I think Microsoft has essentially 90% of that market. Now, the ADK, the AI software development kit, agenic, whatever you want to call it, I don't know if Microsoft's ceding its dominant position or not. I don't think anyone knows. It hasn't shaken out. But Microsoft could pay, let me look at the market cap of Microsoft today. $2.75 trillion. Microsoft could pay $27.5 billion in stock, and it's just 1%. They're just issuing 1% of their company. So if they paid 27 billion, 27.5 billion, 1% of the company, they could go to their current subscribers and say, you know what, we're increasing your monthly subscription, depending on your usage, by at least $15 a month to as high as $200 a month. And they can automatically, Microsoft could automatically create revenue inside of Microsoft to make their $27.5 billion purchase worth $300 billion, $400 billion. And that's what I think is going to happen with somebody trying to bid on Railtown. But on the other hand, Railtown may stand alone. If they, I've shown you the revenues from AIP partners, which they control, and TELUS itself taking half of their number, I get 240 million a year, 20 million a month. Free cash flow. That buys a ton of engineering. And it can stand on its own. So yeah, I think it could be a takeover, but I think the company could simply be the next, I don't know, the next whatever company still stands on its own. So I've been bullish over a year, but I've been sort of adamant since June 5th, I think the day was, the Thursday that week. My timing has been wrong, bluntly. I didn't make it up. I didn't make up the urgency that I was expressing, but in retrospect, completely wrong. So you may not believe me now, but I don't think there's much time left. Why? Well, the Rimouski data center, which actually opened last year, and I thought joint revenue could start in the third or fourth quarter last year. It didn't, as far as I know, or not in a meaningful way anyway. And then and look, I'm not making it up. On the other hand, I don't have inside scoop either, but I really thought it would be the first quarter. So is TELUS gonna let the second quarter go by as well? That really puts them in the hole if they're going to meet their goals. So I think the second quarter is it. Now, let me give you a caveat. If TELUS finds out that their NVIDIA stack isn't working quite right, or its energy supply, there's a glitch, or the large language model contract, they haven't hammered it out, and it takes till the third quarter, it takes till the third quarter, because they have to get it right. They have to get it right. No sex before the marriage. So I could still be wrong, but I think the second quarter is really intense pressure to get revenues going. We've learned that a rail engine was completed in January, but then we learned that it was completed in February, oddly. So I guess the safest thing is to say it wasn't ready until February, maybe March, and maybe that's being installed. We learned just last week that the Railtown is coming up with a pricing scheme for payment to use its service. So that's happening. It was disclosed, but maybe it's not completely ready yet. Maybe there's negotiations. Maybe I really don't know, regulatory, legal items that have to be filled out. So all of it could be taking time, not because there's something wrong and not because they're falling behind, but because they're trying to get it, in the vernacular, right. So that would still lead me to think second quarter. The proof of concept is as important as the revenue. And once they get started, proof of concept on one data center or via Uniserve, it could be the AI news that ricochets around the world. Microsoft has over 500 data centers. I don't know how many they're going to gear for AI. The world has over 12,000. I don't know how many are going to be geared for AI. Everybody wants sovereignty. So I think once the story gets out and the hubbub, the buzz spreads, you don't have much time to buy the stock. So anyway, this gentleman says, I'm strongly considering an investment. I think the time for considering is probably rapidly leaving you behind. I would act and then have that moment of, what the hell did I just do? And worry about it after you bought the stock. If you gotta hem and haw with yourself and can't decide to buy it yet, one of these days you're going to wake up and it's $3. That's 10x. If you wait, you're going to miss out on 10x, in my judgment. And if it catches up and surpasses, it could be $30. That's 100x from here. I don't see the waiting as being a sensible strategy. Buy stock while the criminals are giving it to you in size. And your question is, what's your hesitation? Do you have a better idea? I'll leave it to you if you do. What's the other one? That it's going to go to zero? That the CEO is going to sign a deal with Jeff Easton or Ari Rubenstein or Kurt Kramer or the Toad? Railtown has $6 million in the kitty, and they don't spend very much. They have all the money they need to make it to revenue. They're not going to sign a toxic deal. So you can check that fear off your ticker. Can the heaviness, the criminals drive it to being seller box? Hell no. Hell no. They can try, but there's buyers out there. And buyers will step in. At some point, the wet blanket will be lifted. But most importantly, revenue is going to come and blow anybody that short the stock out of the water. But don't get all caught up in the argument that the shorts are going to be in trouble. The shorts have the whole game rigged. They can move their positions. They can move them offshore. They're never going to lose. Don't think of it that way. Just think about your own account. What's the risk in the stock at 30 cents? That it's going to go to zero? That it's going to go to 20 cents? Yeah, anytime. Any stock can go down by 50% for a week or two. But if you don't sell, what's the risk? Railtown right now is valued at basically $60 million. Maybe it's a little bit more, $100 million in Canada. Lane Chain was valued last summer. It got priced and announced in October at 1.25 billion post money US dollars. And it's not as good a product. Which one's the right value? You think the stock that there's no news out, there's no research on, there's no participation of Wall Street, Bay Street, or the city, and it's being suppressed by the criminals selling? You think that's the correct valuation? Or is it the one where the private equity boys and girls came up with a value, which probably is inflated, but that's a year, that's last, it's 3 quarters ago, 2 or 3 quarters ago. That is probably now double that now. How can you, I don't know why anyone sees any risk in this stock. Yes, there's risk in the short run. Yes, there's risk of delay. Yes, there's risk that in any kind of panic sell-off in the market, it could be down briefly. But let me give you one number. Railtown purchased AIP Network Partners. AIP Network Partners, they bought the network. They own it, lock, stock, and barrel. That's John Ruffalo on the board of Railtown. That's Mike Norbrega on the board. That's Pat Horgan on the board. And that's Dr. Tom Core in the company. Now it's the advisory board. But they're there. AIP's network does 500 million or better in revenue. It's not that difficult to imagine they're spending 200 million or more on other hyperscalers. We already know they were spending over 100, 125 million from the interview that Dr. Tom Core gave with Rebecca Kurzweil back when there were 160 companies. Now there's essentially 200 companies. Well, if it's 200 million in 2028, that gives plenty of time to grow. at 20%, that's 40 million. There's essentially 200 million shares outstanding. Broad stroke, that's 20 cents a share in 2028 from the AIP partners, which they control. 20 cents a share in revenue, and revenue in the AI space right now gets a multiple of 20, 25, and 30, 35x as a baseline. Some of it goes as high as 200x. But that's revenue. LangChain's number that got them valued at 1.25 billion was an estimated annual revenue of between 12 million and 16 million dollars, and they're losing money. Just from that AIP network moving their hyperscale spend, which is happening right now, moving it over to TELUS, that's 40 million at 100%. 40 million at 100%. 20 cents a share. So not only is that roughly 20 cents is a little less. 20 cents a share in revenue gross, it's also net revenue. It's also cash flow. It's also profit. What is that worth? Well, you don't have to use LangChain's 85x. Just use 30x. I think you know where it comes out. That's $6 a share. What are you waiting for? Just from that source. But anyway, everyone waits for confirmation. If you get confirmation, the stock will be $10. So you got to act. You can't seriously consider. You're going to tell your kids, your grandkids, you know, that Railtown, I was strongly considering an investment in it. I was. I can show you the email. Well, Grandpop, did you do it? Oh, no, because I wasn't sure. Where'd you put your money? Well, I put it in a mutual fund that was getting 20% a year. What happened to that? Well, as you know, the market went up, and then oil prices were $250, $300 a barrel for the next 7 or 8 years. And the market had a resounding crash. So I actually, although it started off well, my investments were on a purchasing power basis were wiped out. But I was strongly considering it. Don't consider it anymore. Buy it. Act, 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 act. You have information. So do the BlackBerry guys. They have information. They can't act. They're not allowed to act. You can act. All right, so that's that email, and I'll try to answer in writing, but I wanted this way. I've told everybody my answer, and I think that protects me from I don't know what, you know. It just, I think it's the way to do it is to spread my answer out to everyone. The stock now is $29.25. We've got about 30 minutes to go. I'll go through your comments. Did I tell you that you guys own 19,171,000 shares? Did I tell you that? Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. All right, let me go through. Pat M, first. Speaking of first in class, best in class, Pat M. Mein Gott. Jason Harbison, looking good, William. Feeling good. I can't remember. Louis. Feeling good, Louis. Eddie Eagle, Fast Eddie. Good day, Bill. Nice haircut. Yeah. I told the person sweeping it up to put it in baggies and sell it on eBay. It's going to be worth something someday. Unknown stuntsman. Wow, Steve. Picked up. Wow. 13,725 in the Roths. Wow. That's a good way to spend your tax refund. Keeping the pressure on. Looking good, Uncle Bill. Feeling good, Louie. D-Mac. Lula, be my baby. Greetings, William. It's going to be a good week. Yeah, don't put pressure on the week or the month for that matter. I guess my main message is I might have been wrong in timing, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong in magnitude. So, yeah, maybe it takes a little longer to get there, but the magnitude is just going to rock your world, I think. Silver Skyrocket. Hello, William and everyone. Donna says hello. Looking good. Feeling good, Louie. Pat, nice unknown. Julius Quim, you look like $1,000,000. Fake it till you make it. Ricky Brogan, hi, William and RT crew. T. Alex, hi, everyone. Ricky Brogan, nice haircut. Got my haircut on Friday. Good for you. MC, hello from Germany. I've added 32,000 shares. I wonder who MC85 is. That's awesome. Mein Gott. Mein Gott. Guten Adden. So added 32. New total 210. I wish I could see your name because I'm afraid if I'll double count it or not. Good for you, though. Good for you. 210 is beautiful. Do you know what I feel about 210? At $25 if it gets there, which I think it will, and better. You know what I feel about that? That is a lot of euros. That's a lot of euros. It's a lot of marks. MC, hey, all added 32,000 golden nuggets, new total. I love it. That's great. T. Alex added it. Wow, T. Alex. That's the time to do it. 12,550 at 0.39. New total 185. That's awesome. We'll be able to start our own international currency. Maybe we can buy a tank of oil. June, thanks for all you do, William. You're the best. Thank you, June. Very kind of you. Ricky Brogan bagged 3,640 more. That's amazing, Ricky. At 28 cents. I wish I could do that. If I ever get any money, that's when you'll know that the stock is going up or has already gone up. That's good for you, Ricky. Total cash cows, 74,840. That's awesome. And the total average, you got it under 40 cents. You see how you did that? You got it under 40 cents. I don't know where it started. It's pretty exact. A pretty exact number. T. Alex, good average, Ricky Brogan. Ricky Brogan, thank you. T. Alex, I'm a little higher at 50 cents. Well, T. Alex, that number, and a lot of people are underwater right now, and that's frustrating. There's no question, but it's very hard to buy at the exact low price of a stock. So it'd be nicer to have a lower price, but 50 cents is going to be cheap. And all of my numbers that I just gave to the gentleman, you know, basing it off 30 cents, I think it applies at 50 cents. I think the stock will be a $5 stock fairly quickly. That's 10x. But I really think it can be a $50, $55 stock. I'm not sure exactly when. And one caveat is if the company is sold or acquired by another company, we can't control that price. So like that Microsoft example I gave, look, if Microsoft paid 27.5 billion, which in stock, which I think is totally plausible, maybe not probable, but plausible, that's $129 a share. So it's a big number. But anyway, it's possible somebody comes and only pays, you know, $22 a share and the company sells. I don't think so anymore, but it's possible. And so the $50 or $55 target that I've had for a long time might happen inside of the new acquirer. But anyway, leaving that aside to you, Alex, I think it's entirely possible at a 50 cent basis that you could, it's not a promise, you could see 100x on your investment. And so, you know, you'll look back and say, well, I might have been able to buy 5 or 10 or 15% more shares. But, you know, I'm telling you, it's very hard to get an A++ on trading. And Ricky has a lower cost basis than you do. But you know that there's another part of the decision, which is selling the shares. And who knows, he might not sell, you might get a better deal on that. I believe, T. Alex, that it's quite likely none of us are going to sell our shares of Railtown. And we're just going to allow our shares to be absorbed into a bigger company. But then you got decisions to make at that point. Anyway, my bottom line is 50 cents is a great price. I think $5 will be a great price, believe it or not. From $5, I still think there's 10x or more in the company. So why wouldn't that be a great price to buy it? T. Alex, Thales has Bell competition in Canada. Yes. And you remember the presentations that we've seen. Bell Canada's there. And there's another one. Rogers, they own the Blue Jays. So there's three big telecom companies up there. We don't know. There might be negotiations with the others. We don't know. T. Alex, Telus was first to launch a live operational sovereign AI factory, while Bell has committed to a larger overall network capacity through its AI fabric. Well, okay, let's talk about a couple of those things. So Railtown conceptually, we haven't heard yet, but conceptually Railtown could start earning revenue in fairly short order on top of this first live operational sovereign AI factory stack. But it's possible, we don't know. Railtown may agree. I see, these are the things I don't know. Is Bell going to use NVIDIA stack? And maybe Railtown's on top of that as well. So maybe a commitment comes out from Bell saying, we're building out the largest overall network capacity in what we call AI fabric. You know, maybe it's not ready until 2029. But analysts, when they can finally start publishing, they'll project that and they'll bring it forward to today and give you a valuation per share. Thales has positioned itself as the leader in speed to market for sovereign AI, data processed and stored entirely within Canada. You know, they may have positioned themselves, but they're, as far as I know, the only sovereign AI factory currently up and running. It belongs to Telus. But anyway, it's great, T. Alex. If we can be, here's the ideal world. Railtown is, in fact, the best product. The first product, but it took a little longer to get Rail Engine done, but the other parts were ready. Maybe that's one explanation. And it's best in class. But if it's proven to be the critical interface, for lack of a better word, to make these supercomputers useful and productive, and the proof of concept means that for sovereign Canada, maybe Bell Canada says, we've got to have Railtown too. Oh my gosh, you're talking, I mean, from what you've put up, you're talking not doubling what Telus does, but maybe much more than that. T. Alex, operational supercomputing. Telus launched Canada's first fully sovereign AI factory in Rouge-Rimouski, Quebec, in partnership with NVIDIA. Performance is job number one. Performance. This facility has been recognized as one of the fastest and most powerful supercomputers in Canada, ranking 78th globally on the top 500 list. T. Alex. Strategic focus. Telus emphasizes sovereign capabilities, targeting researchers and businesses that require high security and local data residency. T. Alex, Bell is focusing on massive scale. By the way, Railtown is built to scale massively with no additional engineering or monetary commitment. That's pretty impressive. Bell is focusing on massive scale and a nationwide network to dominate AI compute availability. T. Alex, capacity goal. Bell's quote unquote AI fabric project aims to create a 500 megawatt national network and blow a 50 amp fuse, which would be the largest AI compute project in Canada. T. Alex, national expansion. Bell plans to open 6 AI data centers across British Columbia, including Kamloops and Merritt and Ontario by late this year, early next year. Well, that's 6 data centers. What if Railtown's on top of them? We don't know that yet, but what if it is? T. Alex, technology partners. Bell has partnered with Grok, the best dog in the world, for high-speed inference infrastructure, and Coveo for AI relevance platforms. Well, Coveo could be competition. I don't know. As of April 26, neither TELUS nor Bell has seen a stock rally comparable to pure play AI companies, despite their massive infrastructure investments. So it's debt. It's debt. And dividends, I think, too. I actually think, I don't know about Bell, but I think in the case of TELUS, they are making a really wise commitment to AI. On the other hand, you've got to believe that this AI transformation is the transformation of 150 years or longer. T. Alex, both stocks have struggled over the last 2 years because of high debt and interest rate, but they now offer distinct profiles for investors eyeing the AI sector. Jack Hamilton, better late to the party than never, just catching up, looking sharp, Mr. William. Well, it's good to be late to the party, but sometimes you have to leave them wanting more. An Irish exit is always preferable than staying too long and getting sloshed. Jack Hamilton, good afternoon, Donna M and RT, all RT passengers. Donna M, I was just wondering if everything was okay with you, Jack. Glad to hear from you. Here we go. The head choo-choo train conductor. Ward Richardson, good afternoon, William and RT crew. I'm responding to your comment about annual recurring revenue will be massive. That, according to Ward Richardson, could be putting it mildly. Some might use the word astronomical, or that annual recurring revenue will grow astronomically. Ward Richardson, a company like RT could make a retail investor becoming an accredited investor in short order. That's a good point. And my job, one of my jobs, I feel like, Ward, is to guide people to realize they're accredited. They don't have to behave like the Dan Borders or the Fred Flintstones are going to come in and say, "Hey, I'm getting all my investors in this. You got to get in it. And this is, I buy it. It's billionaires, and it's buzzword, buzzword." And then when it goes up, they get out. It crashes. Well, I got out. You should have gotten out. You got to do your own due diligence. We just get away from all of that. Once you're accredited, it doesn't keep you from making stupid decisions. That's what I got to help you with. But it does put you in a whole different category. And if we work together, which I hope to, we can see pretty good deal flow and opportunities. By the way, pick up some cash cows today if you would like to become an accredited investor. Ricky Brogan, hi, Ward, Donna, T. Alex, and all. Ricky Brogan and RT crew, all of y'all. Ward Richardson, Ricky Brogan, good to see you here. XX, is that Dos Exes? Willie, Will, long time no see. Hope you are well. I hope so too. That's still open to a few tests. XX. Ricky Brogan done some DD on Rail Engine over the weekend. Very compelling. I think Rail Engine, Ricky, although Rail Tracks is excellent, Conductor is also a heavy lift. But I think the differentiator, the disruptor, it feels like that pitcher in when Charlie Sheen is pitching. Anyway, I think is Rail Engine. Line Chain doesn't have Rail Engine. I'm not sure anybody has what Rail Engine does. But of course, remember, there's so much money there, and there's so many engineers, and you can always work around. So it's going to get built. There'll be competitors. But I think there's something potentially by being the first and having the IP, you might have the best. That's my theory. That's my theory, which is to say, it is all mine. Yes, Anne, we know you have a theory. What is it? Well, this is my theory, which is to say, it is mine. Yes, Anne. My theory. You want to hear my theory. The dinosaur is thin at one end, much, much thicker in the middle, and thin again at the other end. That's it, is it? Yes, that's my theory, and it's all mine. Well, Anne, it seems you've hit the nail right on the head. So Railtown is now 2936. It's up 0.0003 with 8 minutes to go. The bid is also over 29 cents. The bid is 29.36, 6,315. The ask is 0.29. Well, it keeps moving around. There's our guy, 52,500. Poor guy. He never sells. But the volume's only 33,800, and they're showing 62.5, 12.5, 37.5. 12.5 again, 52.5, 32.5, all for sale, but they don't want to go down and take the bid or hit the bid more accurately. It's all spoofing and spliffing and faking and but anyway, Ricky, Rail Engine is really, I think I think it's all important that they can do the whole thing. But rail engine, just imagine it. All those robotics. China has a new robot. I should show it to you. It's the prototype. The one I saw is a woman, but you can buy this robot, and for elderly, like probably you see me, you just have this robot, and I don't think it's sexual or anything. They can do your dishes, do your cooking. You can talk to them. It's amazing. Well, all of that's going to need what Railtown provides and others. Donna M. Hey, Ricky and Ward, congratulations to everyone buying cash cows. Ricky Brogan, thank you, Donna M. Jason Harbison. Ward Richardson, I didn't mean to put you on the spot Friday, but what do you think it's worth? Always appreciate the insights you bring to the stream. Do you ever read the book, The Chinese Philosopher, called The Golden Stream? It was written by I.P. Daly. Get it? That's one of my father's favorite jokes. Ward Richardson. Hello, Donna. I'm hoping you had good news on your gold coin. Kryptonite. William, I'm not sure if you got my last update. I got 1,000. Yeah, I think I did, but I'll make sure I wrote it down again. I think that looks familiar. It's a good price. 42 cents is a good price. And there's Bob. Hi, Bob. Hi, everyone. Congratulations to all of you adding more. We're all one day closer. Yeah. It's true. It's true. But it's partly my fault because I've had this urgency. I still do. I don't know how much longer this is going to be under wraps, but it could be May, it could be June, could be, but I just feel like it's just, look, if something like news-ish were to happen, let's say in June, it doesn't mean the stock won't go up first. So anyway, you got to be in it to own it. You got to own it to share in the experience. Ward Richardson, Jason Harbison. No, don't feel that way. I felt bad about not giving you an answer. I just cannot answer without explaining the whole story. This reply, it should tell you something, wink. That's what Ward says to Jason. And I don't think it's one of those kind of winks. We got 3 minutes to go. Last trade, 0.2993, up 0.006. And they're just showing all sorts of volume on the ask just to scare you. And because you are in the know, it doesn't scare you. But don't make the mistake that they're scared. They're not. It's just a computer. It's not a human being. It's many computers, probably. Last trade, 1,634 shares at 0.2993. And then there was a trade for 1,000 shares at 0.2936. And we got 2 minutes to go. I don't know why that philosopher would have to be Chinese. It could be anybody. IP Daily. 2936 to 29. They keep moving it around. So they're gonna try to make it look red for the day, but good luck with that. Good luck with that. Since the bid is higher than the close yesterday. One more minute. One more minute. One more minute. Yeah. You know, if Trump loses the House and the Senate, our government's going to be deadlocked for 2 years. It's a shame. But at least we did what Miriam Adelson wanted us to do. All right, let's see where it closed. 2993, 35,044 share, 440 shares. No new trade there, so all that moving around didn't shake anyone. 35,440 shares today, closed up 0.006, 2%. And let's see what's happening in Canada. I show it down? Is that possible? That doesn't make sense. Oh, maybe that's what it might be. After, maybe they did a trade after it closed. That could be what it is. 40 cents looks like the last price. That's the bid. The volume is only 72,455. Let's see if there's any disclosures. News release, no. Filing, no. No. Okay. All right, so let me see if I can find. I had 3 things to show you. One I'm debating. One is kind of. Well, anyway, let's see how much we can get through. I'm going to start, I think, with what one of the things Ward sent me. And Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, here. Okay. I think this is the first page of it. Yeah. So here's Corey Brandolini, co-founder, CEO, and director at Railtown. This Ward provided this. It's good stuff, and it gives a better explanation of the various strengths. He has 30 plus years of experience as a founder and investor in software companies and has raised 200 million for private and public tech companies. Partner at Wolverton Securities from 1988 to 2000, and then Octagon Capital at 20 some years ago. His roots are investment banking, not engineering. Well, I don't know if that's completely true because that's not what he told me, but on the other hand, I'm interpreting what he told me. He co-founded RESAS Services and was its CEO before he stepped down about almost 10 years ago. He was lead angel investor in voice over internet protocol company Telio Inc., which was acquired by Microsoft. You see, he was listed as a partner, not the founder. And he was a director at Advanced Proteome Therapeutics. Bottom line, he's primarily a capital markets and company building operator, not a technologist. His value to Railtown is financing, deal making, and network, not product. Well, we'll see. That's important context for reading the advisory board because the technical credibility is distributed across the rest of the team. So here's the rest of the board. Dr. Elliot Holtham, he's a co-founder and he's a data scientist with AI. He founded, we know a lot of this, but it's good to go over it again. Co-founder of Extract AI, which was acquired by Patriot One Technologies. He's a doctor, so he holds a PhD, doctor, in geophysics from UBC. That's not UBS. That's University of British Columbia, and was awarded the Varnier Canada Graduate Scholarship. He's the scientific legitimacy anchor. All right. Marwan Haddad, co-founder, 25 plus years of software development experience, led engineering at RESAS and Fortune 500 companies. He's worked with Corey before. Mike L., co-founder of BlackBerry, the 3.4 million placement and advisory role signals deep conviction from Canada's most credentialed hardware/software icon, the Mick Jagger of Canadian software, the Taylor Swift of Canadian hardware, the Katy Perry of Canadian business. His presence validates the sovereign AI angle to institutional investors. No kidding. Doug Fragan, co-founder at RIM. Fragan has been co-investing with Mike since BlackBerry. John Ruffalo, founder of Omer's Ventures. It has invested over $500 million across 40 disruptive technology companies in North America. He opens institutional doors, but only for women, not for men. Mike Nobrega, former president and CEO of Omer's and one of Canada's largest pension fund, managing more than $100 billion. Pat Horgan spent his entire career at IBM, and he retired almost 10 years ago. He oversaw major AI and high performance computing initiatives with the government and the federal government, the government of Ontario and the federal government. That's important if there's ever going to be any government penetration. Dr. Tom Core, he's now the director of corporate development. He's a co-founder of AI Partnerships, which is now Railtown's acquired subsidiary. He's the former CEO of Ontario Centers of Excellence. That was a decade. And prior roles as president and CEO of the Accelerator Center at Waterloo. His network spans every major Ontario tech commercialization institution. That's pretty big. Pretty big statement. And then Dr. Tom Core up here, we just read. So what's the thread, the river running through it? Brandolini has assembled a board that covers sovereign AI credibility, institutional capital access, federal government enterprise deployment, and Canadian commercialization infrastructure. The Ruffalo-Nobrega pairing is notable. They worked together at Omer's. Michael L., co-CEO of BlackBerry RIM from 1984. Wow. 1984. That was when that's a long time ago. To 2012. He was born in Istanbul to Greek parents, raised in Windsor. While still a student at the University of Waterloo, he responded to a 1984 call for proposals from General Motors, which he won. He left university to launch RIM with his childhood friend. He was the engineering and product side. Balsley was brought in later as the business money side. They pioneered the smartphone, hitting 22% of the global market share before iPhone knocked him back. He resigned as CEO in 2012, teamed again with his childhood friend Doug to found Quantum Valley Investments and they commercialize quantum computing. He's donated $100 million to the Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics and the Institute for Quantum Computing at the University of Waterloo. So he's joined the advisory board and he invested in that round we've talked about. Doug, he's the quiet co-founder of BlackBerry, childhood friends. He was smart enough to see the writing on the wall. He sold his stock at its peak and became one of Canada's wealthiest men. Michael L. held his shares and watched them evaporate. Wow. They're the Simon and Garfunkel of Canadian tech. John Ruffalo, he's the founder and managing partner of Mavericks private equity firm focused on technology-enabled growth and disruptive investment strategy. He went through Arthur Andersen to Deloitte, and then he founded OMERS in 2011. As said before, he's invested over $500 million US in 40 companies, including Shopify, Wattpad, Hootsuite, Hooper, and DuckDuckGo. Wow, he didn't want to sell Shopify. He built Mavericks. He was struck by a truck while cycling and was paralyzed from the waist down. He kept building Mavericks from his wheelchair. He also created or co-founded the Council of Canadian Innovators with Jim Balziel, the same guy who was co-CEO at BlackBerry. It's interesting. Michael Norbrega retired as president and CEO of OMERS 12 years ago, a position he held for 8 years, it looks like. He also served as OMERS CIO for a couple of years before he became CEO. From 1998, he was president and CEO of Borealis Infrastructure, which was owned by OMERS. He expanded OMERS internationally. He's an Arthur Andersen tax partner. He's also the co-founder of AI Partnerships Corp. Pat Horgan worked at IBM for 35 years. He's a leader. He led IBM Canada's software lab and IBM microelectronics plant, largest of their kind in Canada. He chaired the IBM Canada board, and he met Tom Core on the board of Ontario Centers of Excellence. He was a professor, and he knows government enterprise AI deployment, how to do it. Dr. Tom Core, he co-founded the AI Partnerships Corp. He was president and CEO of Ontario's Centers of Excellence for 10 years. He plays a pivotal role in commercialization and industry academic collaboration across Ontario's tech sector. He also was the president and CEO of the Accelerator Center at the Waterloo Research and Technology Park. They all know each other. So they all cross paths. Nobrega founded AI Partnerships Corp. Railtown acquired it. Nobrega joins the board. Nobrega chaired the Ontario Centers of Excellence. Core was CEO of the Ontario Centers of Excellence. Horgan sat on the board. They all know each other. Ruffalo co-founded the Council of Canadian Innovators with Jim Balzilli, and he was co-CEO at BlackBerry. And Michael is on the board, the advisory board. Horgan ran IBM Canada's Microelectronics Lab in Bromont, Quebec, and has deep federal government relationships directly relevant to TELUS's Rimouski sovereign infrastructure. It's a good board. If you ever get bored, you can read about this board. All right, let's see. See that the rest of it takes so long. All right, we'll do it. We shall do it. Problem is, it's not, this is what's available now. And I do want to point that out to you. The story of Railtown is not well known. So when you ask computers to research about Railtown, the answers come back sort of underwhelmingly. But I always show you what I find, so you got to know that. But the key thing is, by the time the computers know everything, this, in my opinion, the stock will be $15. All right, what was my question? Okay, so I asked again, what does Railtown do? Railtown sits in the AI developer tools, agentic orchestration, observability layer, software that helps teams build, deploy, monitor, and troubleshoot AI-enabled applications and agents, rather than making the underlying foundation model itself. Railtown appears to combine developer productivity tooling with AI observability root cause analysis, plus a sovereign AI distribution angle through partners like TELUS and enterprise channels. Is this space hot? Yes. Hotter than a pepper sprout. The category is still one of the hotter parts of AI because companies are spending heavily on tools that help them ship AI applications reliably, and the broader market for agentic frameworks and AI dev tools is being described as fast growing. Railtown's own materials cite a developer tools market and an AI as a service market with high growth rates. So there's current investor enthusiasm around infrastructure and the so-called picks and shovels AI software. In other words, there's gold in them, they're hills, but sell them the jeans and the wheelbarrows and the picks and the shovels. Railtown's pitch is not just AI code help or just observability. Railtown is trying to bridge both sides of the workflow, helping developers build and ship faster, more quickly, and helping teams diagnose production issues with aware root cause tooling. The combination is interesting because many companies do one or the other. Railtown is positioning itself across the seams. Its integration story matters. Visual Studio, Azure DevOps, GitHub. It's trying to live inside the developer stack rather than a separate dashboard. I think that's important. I asked, is it better than the competitors? And of course, the computer says Railtown is promising, but not clearly proven superior. So the thing is, by the time it is, the price will be higher. But competitors are like Bloviator, Lightrun, UnitQ, DevBlue, ZenHub. Bloomfilter, Lightrun, UnitQ, DiffBlue, ZenHub, Asana, Notion, and agentic automation tools, which shows it is in a crowded field with overlapping categories. Well, that may be, but it may be shown that Railtown stands head and shoulders above the competition. So this is our opportunity, but it also is part of our speculative risk. Railtown's advantage seems to be a narrower, high context approach and a Canadian sovereign infrastructure for now. Sovereign, every country worldwide, not an obvious universal product. I'm not so sure about that. So they're saying it's not decisively superior. But that's not surprising. No one really knows about it yet. Is there a buzz? There's some buzz. But I'd describe it as niche rather than mainstream. That's what it is right now. But it's going to be mainstream. That's one of my contentions with you. It's not a clear groundswell. A unicorn outcome is possible if Railtown can translate product differentiation into repeatable revenue growth at scale. But that's a high bar. Public data doesn't show that yet. Okay. Well, that's another one of my beliefs that it will. A unicorn outcome, all right. The bull case is that Railtown owns a real workflow wedge, explains through partners like TELUS and Uniserve, and shows accelerating recurring revenue, which I think it will. The market could re-rate it, I think it will, like a fast-growing AI infrastructure platform. I think that's what's ahead of us. There's a bear case, but I'm going to skip it. Railtown is best understood as an AI native developer productivity and observability platform. The space is hot, the story is investable, and the partnership's meaningful. But it needs visible traction. I think that's coming. The closest AI frameworks rivals, there's 3 buckets. Closest framework rivals, LangChain, LangGraph. The best known general agent orchestration ecosystem, with LangGraph especially strong for stateful, controlled multi-agent flows. For now, Crew AI, a popular multi-agent collaboration framework, often used for role-based agent workflows. AutoGen, Microsoft's multi-agent conversation framework, strong for autonomous agent interaction patterns. Llama, the llama is a quadruped. Llama Index, more knowledgeable, RAG-centric, but increasingly used in agent builds. Semantic kernel and Pydantic AI. Enterprise, who comes up with the name Pydantic? Enterprise developer-oriented frameworks for structured agent development. All right, that's one area. Adjacent platform competitors, OpenAI Agents SDK, lighter weight agent workflow tied to OpenAI. Amazon multi-agent orchestrator and it Bedrock Agent Core. It's a cloud-native enterprise agent for orchestration and observability. Google Vertex AI Agent Builder, managed agent workflows inside Google Cloud. Microsoft Azure OpenAI, enterprise agent workflows embedded in the Microsoft stack. So we read Microsoft down to here. And then there's UiPath and Automation Anywhere. These are broader vendors moving into the same space. Then the third bucket is dev tools, observability competitors. Lightrun, strong in observability and production debugging. One of the names most often listed beside Railtown. Bloom Filter, AI-driven process mining and engineering insights. UnitQ, related to SusieQ. Bug and issue intelligence from customer feedback and production signals. ZenHub, project planning and engineering workflow tooling. WaveDev, Krugel, and DiffBlue, engineering analytics, search and code intelligence tools that overlap with parts of Railtown's value proposition. And they all need their names to be erased. Okay, what it means for Railtown. Railtown is not really competing head-on with just a framework like LangChain. It looks more like a workflow product layer. Railtown does a workflow product layer sitting above frameworks with observability and developer productivity mixed into it. That means Railtown's competition is fragmented. Some rivals are pure agent frameworks, some are enterprise orchestration platforms, and some are dev tools which solve adjacent pain points. In practice, Railtown's hardest competition is probably from teams building on LangGraph, Crew AI, plus native cloud tools from Microsoft, Amazon, or Google, because those stacks can absorb the same use case over time. LangGraph, Crew AI, and AutoGen have pulled ahead because they are open source, neutral core building blocks. That's the same thing with Railtown. It just doesn't know it yet. Neutral, I mean. With huge ecosystem and GitHub traction. Railtown has enormous GitHub traction, while Railtown is a more vertically targeted, as if that's bad. In other words, that's where your sovereignty comes from. Commercial dev productivity platform with comparatively limited community surface area. So far. In practice, most builders choose the frameworks that everyone else is already extending, starring, and writing tutorials for. And those are LangGraph, Crew AI, and AutoGen, not Railtown. So far. Open source Gravity and GitHub metrics. LangGraph, QAI, and AutoGen are fully open source with public repos that have accumulated tens of thousands of stars and very active contribution histories. LangGraph is reported at over 24,000 stars and tens of millions of monthly downloads. Well, let's pay attention. Crew AI is in the 40K star range, AutoGen 54K stars. That kind of visibility means every hackathon course and blog post that mentions agentic frameworks tends to reference those names by default reinforcing a feedback loop of adoption and community content. For now, so far. By contrast, Railtown's public GitHub presence is mostly sample projects so far and integration examples for now, not a core open framework that developers fork and extend for now, which inherently limits organic GitHub driven adoption. For now, Railtown's primary product is delivered as a Visual Studio extension and a commercial conductor platform so far. So it optimizes for paying enterprise users rather than open source mindshare, which sounds good to me. You get paid. LangGraph, Crew AI, and AutoGen are marketed explicitly as frameworks or programming frameworks for agentic AI, which gives them a clear mental slot for developers building new systems. You pick one as part of your stack, like a web framework. Documentation examples focus on primitives, graphs, agents, something, memory, and orchestration patterns, rather than the better one, which is Railtown. She's under my thumb. The slimy dog who once had me down under my thumb. The wicked wench. All right, so this is the one. Railtown's GitHub is mostly sample products, not a core open framework. Yeah, so far. Okay. Railtown's positioning is more as an AI co-pilot for software developers and dev teams, plus root cause analysis and project engineering for now, meaning it is perceived as a solution. Oh, what's wrong with that? Rather than as a general purpose agent framework, okay? That makes it easier to sell to enterprises who want outcomes, but less likely to be the default choice for open-ended agentic experiments on GitHub and in research blogs. How do you know that? Because you don't see it yet, but you're going to. Agent frameworks like LangGraphs and Crew AI present relatively thin abstractions aligned with how builders think about large language model apps now, nodes, graphs, agents with roles, tools, and state. Their quick starts revolve around pip install, minimal boilerplate, and simple code snippets you can run locally or in Colab, which is ideal for experimentation and content creation. All right, so what? Railtown's entry point is more tied to existing enterprise workflows. Sounds more robust, which is powerful for teams, but heavier for individual tinkerers. Okay. And OSS-driven experimentation for solo builders, that extra. So who do you want, Han Solo or the Battlestar? Ecosystems, because these frameworks are open and widely adopted, they attract a large secondary ecosystem. Template repos, example projects, third party, blah, 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 blah. AutoGen in particular has extensive coverage as a canon, how do you say that? canonical multi-agent framework backed by Microsoft, which shows up in our articles and tooling roundups, the rise of the multi-agent era. How do you know Railtown's not going to be there, you twit? Railtown does integrate into important environments. Okay, great. Plugging Railtown in enterprise dev process, not around a broad OSS plugin system for now. Vendor neutrality and strategic positioning. LangGraph, Crew AI, and AutoGen are perceived as large language model agnostic. So is Railtown. Railtown can read 33 of the software languages in the world, all 33 of the big ones. I think this research sucks, frankly, and I'm moving on. So they're saying LangGraph's Crew AI and AutoGen are ahead in grassroots adoption despite overlapping agentic capabilities with Railtown. So I asked the question, what if Railtown has not really launched yet? That's a plausible interpretation. The public record suggests Railtown may be in a commercially announced product still maturing phase rather than a fully scaled launch phase. The company has marketed launches of specific components like Rail Engine in 2026, which is right now, while earlier materials describe products as commercial ready. So it points to a staged rollout rather than a we have arrived moment. Well, let's see what happens when TELUS kicks off. The product exists, but adoption is shallow. The platform is fragmented into modules that are being introduced over time, or the company has announced the capability before the market has broadly started using it at scale. It might be all three of those things, but it's about to change. If a product cannot truly be said to have been launched, then comparisons to LangGraph, Crew AI, and AutoGen become less flattering to those three because those tools already enjoy developer mindshare, GitHub, and ecosystem gravity. A company can have good technology and still be pre-scale if it lacks broad adoption, repeatable usage, and visible developer awareness. Railtown appears to be in an early commercial launch platform building stage, not yet in the same adoption phase as the leading open agent frameworks. That's right, and I think it's going to kick their butt. And then I said, I just threw this out there. I don't know. I didn't know if it's true. Rumors are that Railtown's engineer base is growing rapidly with excitement about joining the team. Is that true? Not enough evidence to say that confidently. So I guess I probed and I was proven wrong. Railtown describes itself as fast growing. They're looking for a senior Python engineer and a senior machine learning engineer. So they are actively hiring, but it doesn't find that, you know, it's booming. Railtown is hiring and trying to build momentum. That's how the computer sees it. I don't think the information is out there. The total addressable market is big enough for multiple winners. The strongest evidence is that the broader AI software market is already large and growing quickly. 122 billion 2 years ago, almost 500 billion by the end of this decade. Railtown's own cited agentic AI developer ecosystem and SDK, they have it growing to 16 billion. Healthy, but it's smaller than the overall. A market which expands from a few billion to the mid-teens can support several meaningful companies. That is why LangGraph, Crew AI, AutoGen, and all the others and others can thrive in the same broad agentic AI wave, at least for now. The demand is large enough that builders are not choosing between whether and nothing. They are choosing among many layers of the stack. The ones that do best are usually the ones that become the default infrastructure, not just another product. I think Railtown's going to be the default. Railtown is not trying to win the agentic AI market by being the best framework head to head with LangGraph or Crew AI. I'm not sure that's true at all. Instead, it is positioning itself as an end-to-end agent development and deployment ecosystem with a distinct wedge in Canada. Okay, for now. So they have Rail Engine, real-time, event-based ingestion. We know that, live data. Railtrack's Python native agent development kit. We know that. Conductor, an observability and agent layer, agent manager layer, tracking behavior, performance, and reasoning. By packaging all three into an agent development platform, Railtown is betting that teams will prefer a single integrated stack for data ingestion, agent building, monitoring, rather than stitching together open source tools. Yes, that's very powerful. Secondly, distribution via partners and ecosystems. So Railtown is leaning heavily on proving its concept, and I would say look at Uniserve, 3,000 customers, 180 affiliates at AI Partnerships is closer to 200. And who knows? I read 2 million, but who knows how many clients TELUS has. So they're gonna be on top of these channels of customers just being poured into them from Uniserve, AI Partners, and TELUS. And we haven't seen it yet. This is a channel-centric growth strategy. So they're not chasing stars like the rest of the company. And then there's the vertical, the Canadian sovereign AI. You've heard all about it. So the summary, it's an ecosystem player, not just a framework. You've heard all this. The three together are a complete platform covering data to agent operations loop. They're embedding in the other bigger players, and they're leaning into sovereignty. Taking a while. Did I tell you that you guys own 19 million shares, 171,932 Did I tell you that? It's pretty impressive. It's taken a while. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? I must be moving on now, 'cause there's too many places I've got to see. Bye bye, it's been swell now. Okay, finally. Oh, I see. It didn't download everything. All right, well, we'll just go as far as I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Ecosystem lock-in and distribution. Sounds good to me. Railtown's published roadmap is not laid out, but it's going to be a foundation to a broad AI agent platform and ecosystem player. So let's just move on from that boring subject. And then the sovereignty issue, and then the partner. Boring, we know all about that. And the long term, the 180 affiliates. So to summarize it, in the short run, the goal is to harden the current agent development platform into scalable, sovereign-ready stacks. Fair enough. And prove the concept. Medium, expand into domain-specific analytical agents like finance, etc. Okay. Long-term, turn Railtown into a platform inside a platform, the core agent development observability engine underpinning an ecosystem of affiliate. Okay. They're just reprocessing the only info they have. So then I ask, how many of Railtown's competitors are micro-cap public stocks? Railtown's direct agentic AI competitors are a mix of private startups and large public tech companies. Very few of them appear to be micro-cap public stock in the same league as Railtown. Usually means less than 250 million market cap. So LangChain is private, Crew AI, no public listing, AutoGen, Microsoft, is just part of Microsoft, a mega cap public company. The others, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Adobe, ADP, Palo Networks, NVIDIA, are all mid cap or large cap publics. So how are you going to invest in them? Looking at the most are either large cap or mid cap. The micro cap slice is small and not populated by companies who map cleanly to the same, I don't know how narrow it actually is, agentic framework. I don't know that it's a niche. Very few, if any, of Railtown's closest agentic AI framework competitors can you buy at a micro cap value. The notable agentic AI names are private startups or much larger. So here's a list. Roughly 100 million Canadian. So here's their competitor, the large cap. These are competitors to Railtown. You don't know the way of saying it? These are the buyers of Railtown. NVIDIA, 3 trillion. Microsoft, 3 trillion. Alphabet, 2 trillion. Meta, 1 trillion. How are you going to buy those and make 20x on your money? ServiceNow, 150 billion. UiPath, 15 billion. Same question. And then you've got the dev tools, Adobe, 200 billion, Autodesk, tens of billions, Red Hat, IBM, huge. Closer to Railtown's product space, but still dissimilar. These are more adjacent niches. Asana, low billions. Notion, private. DiffBlue, private. How are you going to invest in those? ZenHub, UniQ, Bloomfilter, Lightrun, WayDev, Krugel, Echoes, Viable, Idiomatic, private, pre-IPO. How are you going to invest? No direct agentic framework rivals to Railtown are currently microcap publics. So you can be negative about it, or you can see it as an opportunity. These are the risks of microcaps. I'm not going to go through it. We've gone through those risks before, and I just don't find it interesting. Now I want to go through something that I don't think will take too long, but I want each of you to be thinking about this as the world changes in front of you. And this is what we're going to start looking at after or as Railtown goes up, because we can't control the timing of all this. It's happening. Oddly, AI could forestall it, I suppose. It's taking a while to download. I don't know why. Just to test my patience. All right. This is my friend. Well, I don't know him, but I just think the world of him, Egon von Greiritz. Bonds and stocks to zero, gold and cows to 38,000. The move toward $38,000 an ounce gold may say less about gold rising and more about paper money failing. After a powerful rise in gold, many investors ask the same question. Has gold already moved too high? Short-term corrections always create doubt, but focusing only on the price of gold risks missing the bigger story. Gold is not driven primarily by sentiment, headlines, or market momentum. Gold reflects the condition of the monetary system itself. And the condition of the monetary system is deteriorating. For more than half a century, the global financial system has not been sustained by sound money or by productive growth. It has been sustained by debt, That's for the entirety of the bull market, the baby boomers bull market for 50 years. That is since working on night moves, or she had way up high and firm working on the night move. 50 years. The global financial system has been sustained by debt. Governments have expanded deficits. Central banks have created currency on an unprecedented scale. Financial markets have become increasingly dependent on leverage. That's why we're at war, my friends. And that's why they suck the marrow out of your investments, because they're all leveraged. What appears to be stability on the surface is, in reality, a system sustained by confidence. It's a con job. Confidence, men and women. But confidence in a debt-based monetary system is never permanent. Confidence in a debt-based monetary system is never permanent. To understand why gold could move toward 38,000, I think it's going to 100,000, we must first understand what happens when confidence begins to break and when a monetary system built on debt approaches the end of its cycle. If debt is the core weakness of the system, then interest rates are where that weakness will be exposed, and exposed violently. The 10-year Treasury yield. Do you see this? Right in the middle of the peak? That peak was Ronald Reagan. Ever since that, look at the bull market in bonds. Look at the bull market in real estate. Look at the bull market in third and fourth wave feminism. Look at the bull market in creation of debt. Look at the bull market in financialization of everything. Look at the bull market in wealth advisors and hedge funds and family offices and track records. Look at the bull market in the cost of college degrees. Look at the bull market in the price of automobiles. Look at the bull market in defense spending. The insolvency of the United States will drive interest rates to 25% on the low end to as high as 100%. We're not there yet. And this is why the war's going on. The banks are trying to forestall this. That's my opinion. But this break in this bull market of everything is very clear. U.S. insolvency could send interest rates violently higher. When systemic fragility meets geopolitical shock, inflation stops being an abstract policy issue. It becomes visible in the real economy. And you tell me you don't see it? Rising energy costs move quickly through the system. Transport becomes more expensive. Production costs rise. Food prices follow. And imagine 1/3 of all fertilizer comes through the Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz. And planting seasons are happening now. You don't think food prices are going up? What begins as geopolitical tension in the Middle East can quickly affect everyday economic activity elsewhere. Even something as routine as a fishing trip to the North Sea becomes more expensive when fuel costs surge. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And in the end, those costs are always passed on to the consumer, the customer. Middle East war, according to the headlines, hitting United Kingdom's fish and chip shops. Before the war erupted, fisherman Peter Bruce spent 5,000 pounds, $6,600 on diesel fuel to trawl in the North Sea for haddock and cod. Now, the last trip, we spent 10,000 quid. He expects the additional cost to be equivalent to 100,000 pounds. But Israel will be defended. All right, I don't know what's going on here. Nothing's happening. Okay. When energy costs rise, daily life pays. But the rising costs of daily life is only the surface expression of a much deeper problem. And by the way, this was going to come at some point anyway. This is just the catalyst. The Middle East right now is the catalyst for now. When a debt-based financial system begins to strain, the damage does not stop with fuel prices, food costs, or household budgets. The damage eventually reaches the very assets that investors have long believed would preserve wealth. And I suggest you should be very careful of your mutual funds and your managed wealth. Now, what I still don't think this is going to collapse now. I still think we're going to have an uplift in those valuations of 25, 30, 40, even 50%, almost all at once. It's during that time, that'll be the signal. It's during that time, I think you got to get out of managed money and mutual funds and most of your big positions, or buy puts against it. Because the crash that's coming, I've said, I think it'll be a 95% crash. It's interesting. This article says it differently, but it kind of agrees with me. In such an environment, the real question is no longer whether equities can maintain their nominal value. The real question is whether paper assets can retain any meaningful value at all when measured against real money. Real money is gold. Real money is gold. Real money is silver. Real money is black gold, oil, natural gas. Real money are the very commodities that the highly educated, overly confident young people coming out of the Northeast have told us we don't need, and the financialization of everything, which we've seen before in history, comes crashing to an end to prove that, in fact, the real economy is more important. It's a basis for wealth. This is why the relationship between stocks and gold matter so much. The relationship does not I don't get the English here, simply track market performance. It shows how financial assets are gradually repriced against the one monetary benchmark, gold, that does not depend on the con man, on leverage, or central bank intervention. Does not depend on confidence, leverage, or central bank intervention. Stocks will fall 95%. The value of stocks will fall 95%. Stocks will fall 95% versus gold. The green line shows you that the Standard & Poor's, since the beginning of this century, is down 75% versus the value of gold. And according to von Greiberts, who I believe he's right, a further 95% fall in the value of stocks will occur versus gold over the very near term. Stocks are not as strong as they look. After looking at the decline of paper assets against gold, a more important question arises. What does gold actually represent in the world? You know, you used to be able to buy a very nice suit with 1 ounce of gold. I haven't shopped for a suit recently, but I would imagine if you went to look for the nice suits now, they're $5 or $6 grand. I would imagine. I haven't gone. The answer is simple: purchasing power. Gold represents purchasing power because real value is not determined by numbers on a screen. It is determined by what a unit of money can actually buy in everyday life. This is why a comparison which may appear simple is actually revealing. For thousands of years, the amount of gold required to buy a cow has changed very little. What has changed dramatically is not gold. What has changed are the monetary systems used to price everything around it. A cow has cost 1/2 ounce to 1.5 ounces of gold for 5,000 years. The approximate cow to gold ratio over 5,000 years. A cow has cost 1/2 ounce of gold to 1.2 ounces of gold over 5,000 years. If gold preserves purchasing power over time, then the question is no longer whether gold has risen too far. The question is how far paper money has already fallen. Seen in that light, the 38,000 level should not be viewed as a dramatic forecast. It's simply another way of expressing reality. When inflation is measured using more realistic methods, the deterioration of currency purchasing power is far greater than official statistics suggest. In other words, the move toward $38,000 an ounce of gold would say less about gold rising and far more about the continuing decline of paper money. The 1980 high of $850 an ounce is today $38,000 when adjusted for real inflation. This is a chart of gold from, I don't know what happened in 1720. Nothing pops to mind. I don't know. So anyway, over the last hundreds of years, this is inflation adjusted gold price. And if you adjust for inflation, he's arguing it should be 38,000 right now. If gold is not truly rising, but paper money is steadily losing value, then the implications reach far beyond the metal itself. And there's a video. I'm not going to play it. I'll do it another time. Egon von Greiritz explains why debt, inflation, interest rates, and systemic fragility are all converging toward the same end game. What we are witnessing is not simply a trend in the gold market, it is the gradual breakdown of a debt-based financial system. And so a shift, wealth, he says may, I think it will, increasingly move away from paper assets toward real assets such as gold and silver. I would add oil and gas and anything you know how to do to that. All right, so that's the end of what I want to talk about. It's 5:16. And let's go back up here. Lion of many traits. The youth of today, you tell them luxury. My father woke us up half an hour before we went to bed. Luxury. We lived in the bottom of a lake in a shoebox. You tell the kids today that, they don't believe you. Ah, no. All right, the youth of today like to follow trends such as Harlem Shake, TikToking, and Gel King. I guess those are trends. What are the fads of your youthful days that you can tell us about? Why would that be interesting? I'm just glad I didn't grow up in the days of tattoos. But I was never much into fads. I've never been much of a join in on the idiotic behavior of I mean, I remember dances at college, which I didn't find. Everybody get drunk and then they'd gator. I'm like, gatoring. I never did any of that. I would leave. What were some of the, what I could tell is drugs were a big thing. Music, I guess, is better back then. travel wasn't as prevalent or taken for granted as it is now. There was a period of time where everyone roller skated. There was jogging was the big thing. I don't know if people jog anymore, but there was a lot of jogging. Tennis was, for a while, was a fad. I don't know if it was in your time. We actually used to read. Nobody reads anymore. But I don't know if everybody read. That's fair enough. I don't know. There weren't the online things that they are now. We would go to the mall. A lot of people would go to the mall, just walk around the malls. Yeah, I don't know. Pete the Greek added 460. Good for you, Pete the Greek. That's great. 52,672 is a great number. Good for you, Pete. Opa. Mad Greek. Hello, sir. I sent you an email with my Roadhouse. All right, Mad Greek. I'll look for it. Peter Greek, congratulations, Ricky says. So the U.S. Navy blocks Iranian ports. And I think I'm going to take that opportunity to sign off. Let me just see if there's any news of any nightmare kind. Paul Craig Roberts, 3 ways Greater Israel wrecked the peace talks. Well, depends on who's zooming who. I guess there was a disco fad for a while, but I never participated in that. Doesn't look like there's much war news to worry about yet. Over 100 empty oil tankers head to the United States to fill up. Good luck. I don't think we can fill 100 of them, but we'll see. We do have a lot of oil to export because our refineries are not set up for the oil we produce, or all of the oil we produce anyway. But I don't think that means we have extra. We'll see what happens. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off. It's 5:21. Thank you for listening. April might be our month, but I've said that for several months. Could be May or June, I suppose. But I think when things happen, it's going to be very dramatic. So unfortunately, we have to act while things are quiet. And that involves waiting. But I think the waiting game is nearly over. And I would look at it this way. The BlackBerry guys got in at around this price, but also a lot of the early investors 6 years ago, 7 years, 5 years ago, got in kind of in this range. Certainly in retrospect, it'll all look like the same blip on the chart, in my opinion. But if you get in now, you don't have 5 years of waiting. You don't have 5 years. How are they going to raise money? They already have all the money they need. You don't have what is AI? Everybody knows what AI is. They're not going to do toxic financing, and they're on the verge of revenue visibility. So you kind of get to come in right at either seed round valuation or the Series A round valuation without the wait. Now, we're all have been attuned to instantaneous results, but we've waited from my June call. Some people, including myself, it's been over a year, but from June, it's not quite a year yet. And that's in the investment game, that's not a long time. You can't, timing's pretty hard to project, but the upside move is what I stand by. So anyway, I'm going to end it there. We have to continue to pray for peace in the world and pray for blessings of health and safety and life for all the citizens of Israel, all the citizens of, and so, military of Iran and the rest of the Middle East, and our own service men and women, and pray for peace. And hopefully saner heads will prevail. So with that, I wish each of you a peaceful night, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Cheers.